are in the neighborhoods. So it's still very fluid. Here in Lviv, things have calmed down a little bit. We haven't heard an air raid siren for a while, but people are queuing up at banks, trying to get cash, trying to get gas, making sure they have an escape route if necessary, Pia.
Atika, what are world leaders saying about the increase of sanctions and Russia, assistance for Ukraine? What is the European Union saying also?
Well, almost immediately, this means that the harshest sanctions will be placed on Russia. This is what the United States had warned. It was what the EU had warned. And now, by seeing what appears to be the beginnings of a full-scale invasion, those sanctions will start to go into effect. We're just waiting for the official word. But as you can imagine, there has been a round of condemnation from the U.S., from the EU. They see this defiance by Russian President Vladimir Putin as something to be utterly condemned. So we're waiting to see what other kinds of help can be provided. In the days running up to this, the Russian military was given more weapons, more military equipment, but it is not a member of NATO. And that means that when Russian troops cross over and if they clash with Ukrainian troops, it will only be Ukrainian soldiers that they come up against. Other NATO allies will not be entering into the fray, at least not for the moment. It's possible that things could change, especially if we start seeing more Russian troop movements closer to Western Ukraine, closer to NATO allies. That's when we might see this changing into something much, much bigger.
Atika Schubert there in Western Ukraine of CNN. Back here at home, the government all hands on deck to bring Filipinos to safety. The Foreign Affairs Department says it is coordinating with nearly 200 Filipino nationals in Ukraine for evacuation. Tristan Adalo now joins us live for the details. Tristan? Do we have Tristan now? All right, we're going to get back to Tristan Nodalo in just a bit. 74 days until the Filipino votes on May 9th, Comelec looking to help over 67 million voters decide by offering its own series of debates beginning next month. Melissa Lopez also reports the poll body has a new requirement for the controversial Operation Baklas.
Mark your calendars. The Commission on Elections expects all 10 presidential hopefuls to attend its official debate on March 19th.
We have commitments from all campaigns that their candidates will be joining us.
Comelec spokesman James Jimenez says the candidates will share one stage from 7 to 9:30 p.m. However, the spokesman of former Senator Bongbong Marcos says they have not yet agreed to join the debate at the Philippine Arena, again citing a hectic schedule. There won't be any live audience. 8 out of 9 vice presidential candidates will face off on March 20th, with Buhay Party List Congressman Lito Atienza begging off due to knee surgery. A moderator will field questions to attendees subject to strict rules.
Okay, no one will have any advance information about the questions. We will not allow candidates to bring anything on stage. We will provide them with a pad and a pen on the podium, but they will not be able to bring notes to the debate.
To encourage more exchanges and voter education, the poll body is also set to accredit fora and interview programs featuring candidates, which will be exempt from its broadcast airtime. The poll body has accredited CNN Philippines election debates this month, along with partnerships with other media networks to combat misinformation.
Suriin po nating mabuti ang ating mga kandidato. Meron pa tayong mahigit na 2 buwan para gawin ito. Higit sa lahat, bumoto ng naaayon sa konsyensya at tamang impormasyon.
Comelec also gives in to massive backlash over its Operation Baklas, or the removal of campaign posters within private property. The four-member Comelec and bank agreed in a closed-door session to require written consent from homeowners before its field officers take down these posters.
If the property owner refuses to give consent, then a case is possible. Okay? In the meantime, the posters stay up.
Still, the poll body insists it has the right to regulate the size of campaign materials. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
Comelec's James Jimenez later on showing a letter from Marcos's national campaign manager Benher Abalos, where he expressed the candidate's, quote, readiness to join the poll body's official debates, unquote. Now, this contradicts the statement of Marcos's chief of staff, Vic Rodriguez. In the February 11 letter, Abalos even asked for a meeting with Comelec together with representatives of other candidates to thresh out the debate format. But Rodriguez denies any conflict in the letter and his latest statement, saying they are ready to attend forums, interviews, and even debates, quote, schedule permitting. Rodriguez earlier said they prefer doing one-on-one interviews. We're counting down to our very own vice presidential and presidential debates. 7 vice presidential candidates will stand side by side to answer the hard questions on Saturday, February 26 at 5 p.m. at the University of Santo Tomas in Manila. 9 presidential bets will also take the debate stage on Sunday, February 27 at 5 p.m. also at UST. These Comelec accredited debates are in partnership with UST and Microsoft Philippines to help you make an informed choice come May 9th. Well, here's a look at what some presidential candidates are up to. Bongbong Marcos woos voters in Iloilo, a known bailiwick of his rival Vice President Leni Robredo. The former senator met with local leaders and supporters at the Iloilo Convention Center. He was supposed to hold a campaign rally in Gimbal, but that was canceled. Netizens called out the use of a public school for his event, which is not allowed under the Education Department's guidelines. During his visit to Iloilo, Marcos chanced upon Senator Franklin Drilon, who is scheduled to join Robredo's grand campaign rally in the province tomorrow. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, meanwhile, says he would give Robredo a government post if he wins the presidency.
Why not if she's willing? Metaphorically.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically. O yun, hypothetically. Hypothetical. Bumibet sa tuloy ako kung ano ang kung saan siya magaling, kung ano yung kagalingan niya, baka magamit natin siya. But if she's willing, pero ayokong pangunahan ang mga tao.
On the eve of the 36th anniversary of the EDSA Revolution, 9 framers of the 1987 Constitution endorsed Robredo and her running mate, Senator Kiko Pangilinan. Constitution framers say the tandem adheres to the basic tenets of the Constitution, such as respect for human rights and co-equal branches of government. And Senator Lacson's running mate, Tito Soto, called the bloodless revolution the nation's, quote, greatest victory over the dark times. He called on the country not to forget and to protect history from those who wish to revise the narrative of EDSA. Let's go back to the Ukraine-Russia crisis. The government all hands on deck to bring Filipinos to safety. The Foreign Affairs Department says it is coordinating with nearly 200 Filipino nationals in Ukraine. Tristan Odalo now joins us live for the details. Tristan?
Pia, should there be no flight changes, 4 more Filipinos are expected to arrive to the Philippines tomorrow, bringing the total number of repatriated Filipinos to 10. In a media briefing, the Department of Foreign Affairs says that it is already coordinating with 181 Filipinos, majority of whom are in Ukraine's capital, Kiev. Government officials add that they appeal to our kababayans in Ukraine not to panic, saying they will exert all efforts to bring them home if they want to. Apart from Poland, the embassies in Hungary, Russia, and other European posts are also on standby for any eventuality. So here are the scenarios the Philippine government is looking at for Filipinos in Ukraine apart from repatriation. First, the DFA can bring Filipinos to safer areas in Ukraine, particularly to Lviv, the western part of the country. There are also ongoing talks for other countries to allow Filipinos in without visas. DFA Chief Teddy Boy Locsin Jr. says Poland has agreed to do so. They are still waiting for Russia's response. Locsin adds that if the Warsaw Embassy needs more staff, posts from Denmark, Germany, Norway, and Sweden can help.
Actually, there are no people yet who've crossed to other countries. We have just repatriated 6 people last week, and we are hoping that we'll be able to repatriate another 4 tonight if circumstances allow. If our kababayans feel safer to go to Lviv, then we will make arrangements. But anybody who wants repatriation, we will use all available means to be able to bring them home. Now, as to the evacuation efforts, we will use all means. If flying is still possible, we will fly them out of Ukraine and back to the Philippines. If not, then we will use land, or we can, and anything else that's possible.
Repatriation is still not mandatory for Filipinos in Ukraine. So far, Ukraine is under alert level 2, and only Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin Jr. can decide on whether or not there is a need to raise the alert level, which will make the repatriation mandatory. Back to you, Pia.
Tristan, can you tell us why a majority of Filipinos still insist on staying in Ukraine despite the conflict?
It's the uncertainty of what will happen to them when they return home. That's the most common reasons of Filipinos that we interviewed in Ukraine. Also, they're worried about their jobs or leaving their jobs and their families in Ukraine. They don't see any sense of panic at the moment, according to the Filipinos that we've interviewed. Let's listen in.
Medyo tension po, pero hindi pa naman kami kinakabahan. Konti lang po kasi nga po dito sa city wala naman pong panic. Ang mga tao parang everyday works or everyday po nila yung mga businesses nila. Katulad din po ng dati, lahat po all in operate.
But if they will avail the repatriation, the DFA says that necessary assistance will be given to them, including financial assistance when they return home. Back to you, Pia.
Tristan Odalo there reporting. You're watching Newsnight on CNN Philippines. When we return, gaming regulator PAGCOR agrees to suspend all e-sabong operations amid investigations into missing sabongeros. And we take a trip down memory lane 36 years after the EDSA People Power Revolution with a retired Navy officer. Keep it here on CNN Philippines. Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Families of the missing individuals allegedly involved in cockfighting asked the Senate for help as the cases remain unresolved, while gaming regulator PAGCOR will seek the approval of Malacanang to suspend e-sabong operations. Amor Santos has more.
Ano po bang kasalanan? Anong nangyari? Sino kumuha? Saan dinala? Anong ginawa nila hanggang ngayon? Di namin alam.
Isabelita Bacay's sons, James and Marlon, were among the 6 individuals who went missing from a cockpit in Manila in January. 40-year-old James is a game fowl handler, while his 20-year-old brother Marlon accompanied him. They had with them a rooster from the farm of Butch Inonog, whose son, driver John Claude, also disappeared.
Noong January 13, 7:45 p.m., nung huli kami nag-usap ng anak ko, alarming na po yung salita niya dahil sabi niya, "Pa, bakit sinasakay sila Kuya James sa van? Pati ako sinasakay ni ganito, ni ganyan, ganyan." Sabi ko, "Bakit? Anong problema?" Hindi ko alam pa eh. Biglang may umagaw po ng telepono.
4 other disappearances happened in Santa Cruz, Laguna, also on January 13 this year, and December 29, May 11, and April 28 last year. A total of 19 went missing from the same arena, including a 14-year-old boy. In a sixth incident, 6 people were last seen at the Royal Octodome in Lipa City, Batangas on January 6. Former top cops Senators Bato de la Rosa and Ping Lacson urged the Philippine National Police to double down on its probe. Police suspect it's connected to game fixing, even as the Manila Arena management says there were no signs of the so-called panyonyope. Police have identified persons of interest, including a certain Julius Havilio, allegedly involved in the disappearances in Laguna, but he can no longer be found.
Sana huwag kayong manghina sa investigation nyo. Huwag kayong matakot kung sino mababangga ninyo, kung may babangga kayong malaking tao, influential na tao. Kagaya ng ginawa natin sa war on drugs, kahit sino binabangga natin, huwag kayong matakot.
With some leads and pieces of evidence discovered, eventually we could file the appropriate charges.
At the request of Senators, PAGCOR agreed to suspend all e-sabong operations amid the ongoing investigations. The agency said it will seek the approval of the Office of the President. Family members of the missing sabongeros admit they're taking a gamble by appearing publicly, since their loved ones could still be with their abductors and their own lives are put at risk. But it's a chance they're willing to take in hopes of getting them back. Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
During the course of the hearing, 3 more disappearances related to e-sabong activities last year were revealed, raising the number of missing individuals to 34. Senator Bato de la Rosa says he will speak to President Duterte about the suspension of e-sabong operations. Well, 36 years since the EDSA People Power Revolution, the peaceful uprising marked the end of Ferdinand Marcos's dictatorship. We now go above and beyond the headlines with a convener of Isambayan, Rommel Ong. Retired Rear Admiral Rommel Ong, as his rank suggests, was a high-ranking naval officer. The beginnings of his career in the armed forces were at a crucial moment in history. He graduated from the Philippine Military Academy in 1987. Admiral Ong, good evening and welcome to Newsnight. Thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. You were a fourth-class cadet, sir, or first year in the academy in 1982, and in 1983, when Ninoy Aquino was assassinated, what went through your mind?
Well, I think yung assassination of Ninoy Aquino in 1983 was the triggering event. Although within the context ng academy, hindi naman napag-uusapan yun. It's something you dwell on your own.
A triggering event, sir. But you know, earlier I was listening to your sharing during the Isambayan event on Facebook, no, where you talked about the EDSA Revolution, and it was interesting that when you said that you thought to yourself, nung nabalitaan po ninyo yung assassination, you said, mali ito. What did you mean by that, and why was that what you said? Why did you say that?
Well, it's a very compelling event for me. Outright naman, makita natin, there's no moral issue there. Mali talaga yon. Ang naramdam ko lang at that moment is parang ito yung simula, pero hindi mo alam kung ano yun eh.
Okay. Sir, you know, we'll fast forward to 1986, 3 years later. And the EDSA Revolution was happening in Manila. Again, like you said earlier, no, noong 1983, nung kadete kayo sa academy, syempre, at the time, wala masyadong technology, no? So medyo, you know, you're confined within the academy's walls. So 86, merong nangyayari sa EDSA. Ano po yung sinasabi sa inyo? And what were you, the cadet corps, about to do that time?
Nung time na yun, radyo lang yung yung way of communicating outside the world. Yung TV is not actually allowed inside barracks. So basically word of mouth. Ang nare-recall ko lang nung time ng 86, and I was a second class, in the second class right that time. Kumatok sa amin yung isang first class sa kwarto namin. Sabi niya, sige, mag-prepare na tayo. Instruction is we will be picked up by a C-130 aircraft. then we will proceed to EDSA. So nag-withdraw na kami ng rifle namin noong time na yon, and we were packing yung combat gears namin. But a few hours later, sabi sa hindi natuloy, stay put lang tayo sa Baguio. So that was the
okay, so
kumbaga yun yung experience ko noong time na yun.
And of course, Sir Rommel, 1986 in March, when the PMA Sinagtalo class of 1986 graduated, you had a new president, a new commander-in-chief, Cory Aquino, female, and then after 20 years of Marcos. And then a year later, it was your turn, your class's turn to graduate. Everybody remembers the bombing at the grandstand just a week before graduation. Tell us about that. How it affected you, what did your graduation mean, and then what was it like for you? Leaving the academy and then going out into the world. So nagbago ang Pilipinas to a certain extent. People saw the armed forces through different lenses, but what was it like? Sorry sir, ang haba ng question.
Okay. Kumbaga merong parang dramatic change from the euphoria of 86. Then 1 year later, 1987, you're graduating, tapos ang humarap sa'yo 1 week before was yung sumabog yung grandstand namin. And there were casualties, both military and civilian at the time. Nung sumabog yung grandstand, we just hit the ground for a while. Then nung naka-recover na kami sa shock namin, some of my classmates went to grandstand to help with the casualties. The others, kasama ko, bumalik kami sa vicinity ng mga barracks kasi we were trying to look for baka may iba pang bomba na tinanim doon sa paligid. So yun yung effort namin for that day. We never had a closure on that incident even up to now kasi I presume it was investigated, but we were not privy to the result of the investigation. And kung titingnan mo yun years later, parang masamang signos kasi after that, ang bungad sa amin is parang ito yung papasukan naming context o environment pag-graduate namin. Hindi siya maayos. Hindi siya yung euphoria ng 86. Merong problema and we need to address that.
Merong problema, Sir Rommel, no, sa loob ng armed forces because like you said, so may euphoria ng 86. As the months went on, parang nawala, parang nag-dissipate. And then there was a lot of restiveness within the military. So you had the RAM boys, the rebels, the military rebels. You had a lot of unrest, coup after coup, and then December 89. Hindi po ba, sir? Tell us muna po and maganda yung sharing nyo kanina sa isang bayan. Meron kayong learnings about reform in the AFP, no? What was it like during Marcos's time? What was it like after? And how how the armed forces struggled to change and to reform?
Okay. When I framed it kanina umaga dun sa Tapatan Forum namin, what I was trying to say is that kami yung generation namin yung transition. We were gaya sabi ko, pumasok kami doon, ang presidente natin si President Marcos noong 82. Then we end up graduating in 1987. Si President Cory na yung pangulo natin. Pero yung shift hindi naman nagbago ganun yung armed forces kasi yung Sandatang Lakas, napakalaking institution yan. Hindi ganun kabilis mag-reforma o magbago. Meron siyang may mga incremental risks dyan within the structure. So yung reforma ng Sandatang Lakas, it took years, maybe siguro decades nga bago na iayos yun talaga. Ang pinaka-trauma siguro ng generation namin was yung post-86 was yung series of coups. Particularly because nagkaroon ng sitwasyon na yung classmate nasa kabilang side. Magkaibang side sila ng political spectrum at that time. Tapos it came to a point na there were times na the organization itself, yung Sandatang Lakas, was hunting yung mga classmate mo. Kasi pumasok nga sila doon sa kabilang grupo sa rebelde. So one of the things that nakita namin dito, and personally, hindi dapat bumalik yung sitwasyon na yung Sandatang Lakas hati. Kasi pag yung Sandatang Lakas ay hati, ang epekto niya sa buong bansa eh. Kasi there are situations, and I know you know that there are situations in our political past na ang kinikilingan ng mamamayan is yung yung sandatahan lakas. Okay, andyan yung AAP, tutulong sa atin, hindi tayo pababayaan yan. Pero kung nagkaroon tayong sitwasyon na guguho yung sandatahan lakas, meaning magpa-fracture from within, walang kikilingan yung mga tao wala sila tatakbuhan. So nakita ko yun yung magiging problema doon.
I wish we had more time, Sir Rommel Ong, but we really appreciate your thoughts and your sharing about this, because EDSA, as we all know and as we can see from what you're saying, hindi naman ito just one event in history. You know, like you were saying, no, like you share, napakalaking evento, ang daming ramifications, no, and years after we see the implications. Maraming salamat po sa inyo, retired Rear Admiral Rommel Ong. Still ahead on Newsnight, the ultimate Spider-Man trio brings an iconic meme to life. Details next. Entertainment news now. 3 generations of the web-slinging hero suited up to recreate this viral meme promoting the digital release of Spider-Man No Way Home. Stars Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield posed for this photograph. It's a take on a 1960s cartoon of 2 Spider-Men, one of them an impersonator, pointing at each other. The movie is out for streaming March 22nd. And that is it for tonight. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Hontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
With less than 3 months before the 2022 election, some candidates trying to prove they know the playbook of Philippine politics like the backs of their hands. Technique number 1, if something works, then go for it, even if it means telling your running mate to kindly step aside in the meantime because a certain crowd is crazy about pairing you with someone else. Technique number 2, look for the ruling party's weakness and rub salt on the wound by forcing yourself into the picture. And number 3, identify a unifying factor such as God and religion to gain the favor of a church with millions of followers eligible to vote. As we inch closer to May 9, expect our future leaders to lay down more cards or reveal tricks up their sleeves that'll jack up their chances of winning. Good evening, I'm Pia Hontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. Despite running under a different party, presidential candidate Manny Pacquiao argues he is still the president of PDP Laban after rival Manila Mayor Isko Moreno sought the ruling party's endorsement.
Ako ang presidente ng partido, so dadaan din sa akin lahat yan. Hintayin lang natin kung may mga lumapit sa atin na gustong sumuporta.
Senator Coco Pimentel of PDP Laban joins us tonight to shed light on this issue and other things besides that. Of course, the PDP Laban Manny Pacquiao allied faction. Senator Coco, thank you very much for being with us tonight. Before anything else, let's just say that you are in the residence of Senator Manny right now.
That's correct, Pia. Magandang gabi po sa lahat.
Well, Senator Coco, let's begin with this. You've already said that you are the real PDP laban, and you said kami ang tunay na PDP laban at may manok na kami. This is in response, of course, to the attempt of Isko Moreno to seek the endorsement of the PDP laban. Is that correct?
I am not aware of his desire to get PDP Laban's endorsement. I was asked by those covering the campaign of Manny Pacquiao yesterday in our headquarters. So yun lang yung sagot ko na ano na po, ang PDP Laban ay nakapili na po ng aming kandidato pagka presidente. Walang iba kundi si Senador Manny Pacquiao. And then ang vice president namin, yung choice niya. Walang iba kung hindi si Deputy Speaker Lito Atienza. At dinaan po namin ito sa proseso. A very formal and solemn process ang dinaanan po nito.
Pero may problema pa rin po, hindi po ba, Senator Coco? Because you have another faction, the one led by Alfonso Cusi. And of course, I mean, syempre, we all know, nakabimbin pa rin sa Comelec itong issue, no? Para, that should be laid to rest pretty soon. But that is a problem. That's what's causing a lot of the trouble right now.
Yes, so from personal knowledge, I know of no application or desire of Mayor Isko Moreno to get the PDP Laban nomination because it's no longer open. Pero maybe doon sa kabila. But yun na nga, that's why I issued a warning. Kung yung certificate of nomination nga nung rebel faction namin, the hijackers of the party, may magiging questionable, then all the more a late informal endorsement, lalong questionable. So si Mayor Moreno better not seek that endorsement anymore from the hijackers of the party.
Or else, like you said, he would have to pay the political price.
That's correct. Magiging political issue yun.
Senator Manny has also said he hoped for the endorsement of the Jesus is Lord movement, kina Brother Eddie Villanueva. But Brother Eddie himself has said that they're not going to be endorsing anyone, at least for the moment. What do you think of that, and what does that mean for Senator Manny and for your party?
Okay, this is politics is addition. So if there are organized groups and the organized groups endorse your candidacy, then that's good for you. So okay lang po yun. If ang sagot naman is as of the moment, then we still have around 70 plus more days to go. And I'm sure they understand each other. They belong to this the body of Christ, ang tawag po nila dyan sa community, the sector of our society which are very active in Bible reading, the study of the Bible, and in preaching the Word of God. So, madali po silang magkaintindihan.
Senator Coco, with your candidate not faring very well in the surveys, is he still in the race? I ask this question because, is there truth to rumors that he was about to throw in the towel, or else that because the tap is running dry na raw, or patuloy pa rin ba yung mga campaign contributions? Ano ba yung totoo?
Ang totoo is May 9, we will still be standing and fighting and slugging it out. World champion itong ating kandidato pagka-presidente at saka sincero itong kanyang pagtakbo bilang presidente. He's offering an alternative way of analyzing Philippine society. Ang gusto niya unahin talaga yung problema ng poorest of the poor. Kaya nga pabahay, trabaho, pagkakakitaan. Yun po ang the three basic programs of government ni Senator Manny Pacquiao. So wala pong katotohanan yan, part ng saywar yan, Pia. At saka tandaan po natin that yung mga surveys na nakikita natin, these are pandemic surveys or surveys during pandemic time. Paano ginagawa yun? Sabihin nga sa atin ng mga survey firms, face-to-face, may umiikot. So mag-ingat lang po tayo when we make decisions based on surveys. Pero surveys are guides, but you don't surrender just because there is a dismal result from a survey. So, di po yun. Basta guides lang po yan. Lalo na ngayon, medyo mag-ingat tayo sa surveys kasi pandemic time.
So you don't surrender, or is it too early to surrender? After all, the campaign has just begun. We are still just on the second week since Feb 8.
Kami, we will never surrender. Ganyan po ang marka ng PDP laban. Sinamahan pa kami ng PROMD ngayon. So, PROMD, PDP laban na ito. So, we will never surrender. Up to the very end, fight po kami sa dulo.
Okay.
We will let the people decide, and we will have to be there so that the people will have choices. They will have alternatives. Hindi pwedeng puro mainstream politician lang tayo. Kailangan meron tayong point of view na galing po sa mahihirap na point of view, and that's Senator Manny Pacquiao, kasi kukuha lang siya ng experiences sa buhay niya. Alam niya na kaagad first hand, anong problema po ng mga mahihirap sa Pilipinas.
So fight till the end, never surrender for this boxing champion, this world champion. But statistically speaking, does your candidate still stand a chance? Or are they all just, Manny, Isko, Lenny, Ping, Caliodio, are they all just fighting for second place?
Well, una sa lahat, when you say statistically speaking, I'm assuming you're looking at the pandemic surveys. That's why let us be careful with the figures in these pandemic surveys. Paano ba ginawa yan? And tandaan mo, we have our own surveys, and we are topping some of online surveys. So meaning to say, meron din po kaming inaasahang support, grassroots support, especially grassroots support, and then it's also quite a big sector of society. So we have a fighting chance, lalo na these are pandemic surveys na kailangan medyo ingat lang tayo when we analyze the figures.
Well, pandemic surveys, but made by reputable survey firms like Pulse Asia and Social Weather Stations. You talk about in-house surveys. Senator Coco, lahat naman ng kampanya may in-house survey, at halos lahat naman ng kampanya, lahat ng in-house survey show the principal leading, hindi po ba? And at the same time, there has been a word of warning about surveys that are done online because they're not scientific. The process is not clear. There's no clear methodology also.
That's correct. That's why I will raise the same question with these pandemic surveys. How were they done during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic? Face-to-face? Or they also made some adjustments na nag-online din sila or nag-text din sila? So yun po yung mga tanong. That's why careful lang po tayo. Basta what I will say is that surveys are guides. Okay? You win some, you lose some. But do not lose hope just because you're not performing well in a survey during a pandemic time, where I'm sure the survey takers made some adjustments from the usual method. So ano lang po tayo, just be careful in accepting the figures of the surveys. But let them guide you.
But if Senator Manny himself was leading the survey, okay lang sa inyo? Or you would still say the same thing?
It will guide us. It will guide us, and then ang itatanong mo kasi is, ano bang pinagagawa natin, and how come napakataas natin sa survey? So you ask your question, you ask yourself those questions so that gagawin mo ulit yung ginawa mo.
Okay. My final question, Senator Coco, your father, how would he have reacted to everything that has happened so far? What would have been his words of wisdom for you? Your father, of course, Nene Pimentel. Okay, do we still have Senator Coco? Or we lost that signal to him already? Kung nawala atang signal kay Senator Coco Pimentel, who is, like he was saying, in the residence, the Makati residence of Senator Manny Pacquiao. Senator Coco there explaining that surveys are guideposts. A word of warning, he says, about all those surveys that are done in pandemic times. Anyway, thank you so much for being with us tonight, Senator Coco Pimentel of PDP Laban. Ay, nakabalik, pero we need to go to a break na. Senator Coco, sige, final words na lang po.
Ayun lang po, to all the supporters of Senator Manny Pacquiao, andito po tayo till the very end. Laban po tayo because we are PDP Laban. Sinamaan pa tayo ng PROMD, so mas malakas po tayo ngayon.
Laban,
so salamat po sa suporta.
Laban dahil PDP Laban ang partido ng inyong ama na, you know, we all wonder what could be going through his mind right now.
You want me to look for money?
Okay, sige. Sige. While you're walking there, okay, let's do a little bit of annotation kasi nga sabi ni Senator Coco, nasa bahay siya ni Manny Pacquiao right now. So tingnan natin. That's the beauty of technology, no, that we can have direct access. Senator Manny, magandang gabi po. Naku, surprise. Si Pia Hontiveros po ito sa Politics as Usual. We have about a minute or 2 minutes po para sa inyo dahil kanina kausap namin si Senator Coco tungkol sa maraming issue. Meron po ba kayong gustong i-share sa amin ngayong gabi dahil ang daming issue ngayon, ano? Yung kay Isko Moreno, yung kayo po asserting your presidency as of PDP Laban, etc.
Ngayong gabi. Hello?
Nandunggan ba niya? Naririnig niyo ba kami? Okay, anyway,
yes.
Nasa conference. Thank you. Yeah.
Sige. Okay, salamat po. Never mind. Next time na lang po. Thank you so much, Senator Coco Pimentel. Naging correspondent natin si Senator Coco. Salamat po, sir. We'll be back after a quick break. This is Politics as Usual. Stay tuned.
A future fit for its employees. I'm Sam Tadwani, CNN Philippines.
Welcome back. This is Politics as Usual. Kanina po lamang kasama po natin si Senator Coco Pimentel and he was in the home, the Makati residence of Senator Manny Pacquiao. And just to explain kung ano nangyari, may kakumperensya pala si Senator Manny kaya hindi siya he wasn't able to really speak to us a while ago. But like we said, next time. Anyway, our second guest in this second half of the show, political analyst Ed Buntayo. Hi, Ed. Good evening. Thank you so much for being with us. Well, let's begin with this, no? Let's talk about Manny Pacquiao. He's asserting his authority as PDP Laban head. And of course, this is in response to so-called attempts of Isko to get the PDP Laban's endorsement, or at least the faction allied of Alfonso Cusi. So what do you think of all of that?
Well, Pia, that's expected, no? In the kind of politics that we have. Hindi ko na nga tinatawag na political system kasi it's not really a political system. Everything depends on the political personality. So if you're a personality, you have the resources, you have the name. You might as well decide which political party you will run with, which political personalities you will be with. In other words, in terms of team and so on. Actually, nitong election lang na to, doon natin makita na out and out, no? Parang hindi ganon ka-significant yung political party. Requirement siya sa election laws natin. Pero parang ang sinasabi ng mga kandidato natin, hindi siya ganon ka-significant, no? A political factor when it comes to winning elections. So, hopefully it tells us, no, a thing or two as to what's the reason, no? Why is it that our kind of politics is so different compared to other political setup?
Hindi siya ganong significant when you speak about political parties. But shouldn't we just say it this way? Political parties are insignificant. Di ba?
Yeah, exactly.
Because depends on kung sinong panalo. Pag nung panalo si ERA, PMP, nung nanalo si Gloria, LDP, di ba? Nung nanalo si Noy, LP.
No, so yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know really how to. I'm sorry, but even if I've been trying to make sense of politics all these years, it's difficult to really describe. At the very least, no, what is it exactly that we're having right now?
I love your how candid you are. Totoong-totoo yung sinasabi mo, Ed. Lahat tayo confused na, no? But anyway, another thing. Ay, nako talaga. Dapat siguro yun ang motto na, ay, nako. Anyway, another thing, no, yung mga religious group endorsements. So you have Jesus is Lord, Brother Eddie, saying, hindi muna kami mag-endorse, no? Kaibigan namin sila lahat, no? And yun sanang gusto ni Manny Pacquiao, no? Kay Brother Eddie. You have Apollo Quiboloy, Kingdom of Jesus Christ endorsing BBM and Sara. You have the El Shaddai founder, Brother Mike Velarde, endorsing BBM. In past elections, it's always such a big story, with which religious groups go to which candidate. Iglesia ni Cristo, the Catholic Church also. Although every time the Catholic Church speaks up, ang dami nagagalit. It's very strange in a Catholic country. But what do we make of this now? Why is it a little bit different now? And why that hesitation, for example, from GIL?
The only hesitation is with JIL, Pia, no? But the only difference probably is that it's the first time compared to all the, well, not all, but at least most of the presidential elections. Nanguna naman si previous President Erap Estrada and the late President Nonoy Aquino, when they both ran, they led the survey at the outset and they won the election, except that they did not breach the 50% mark. Yung ngayon kasi, kahit pa sabihin natin na pandemic survey yan or whatever, we cannot deny that all the survey, the major survey organizations have been saying practically the same thing, that the leading candidate has breached the 50% mark, and so that may have led some of the religious organizations to already endorse the leading candidate. Now, the answer to your question is that I don't know if you notice in previous elections, usually after, not after, but only a few weeks before the election day, dyan natin nakikita yung religious endorsements kasi actually add-on lang sila. Tinitingnan din nila kung sino talaga yung medyo sigurado na talagang mananalo at yun usually yung ine-endorse na we contributed to your win, no? Something to that effect. But as to whether or not there's really an endorsement that's made at the outset, hindi ko pa nakita, no? Of course, I'm just looking at the elections from 1992 onwards, but so far as if I remember it right, I hope I'm wrong, is that most of the religious endorsements happen at the last minute.
Mabuti nang sigurado kesa hindi. We're going to have to take a very short break. This is Politics as Usual. More questions in the last 4 minutes of the show, the final stretch, in just a bit with Ed Tayao. We'll be right back.
Energy efficient office equipment equals energy efficient office.
We're on our final stretch. Analyst Ed Tayao still with us. Ed, I know we just have 3.5 minutes. We're going to try and squeeze everything in. Three big questions here. First, so nabanggit na, no, of course, BBM leading the surveys by a mile. The others, Lenny, Isko, a far second. And you have Manny, Ping, Calyodi, etc. Go down the line. No? Is the election over? And are they just, jousting for second place? Or hindi pa talaga tapos ang bakbakan dahil it's too early to tell? But ito nga, we have this issue of, crossing that 50% mark.
I'm inclined to think, Pia, na hindi pa tapos ito, no? And we still have a few weeks, in fact, at least about 70 days to fight for. And yung sinasabi nila na 95% decided na, yung 95% na yun pwede pa magbago at the last minute. Now, what will it take for that 95% to change the preferred candidate? You have to shatter that narrative, no? That the post-Marcos Philippines, or the so-called democratic Philippines, has been really a lot better compared to the Marcos period, and vice versa. Kasi alam mo, yun ang naging problema natin. Hindi definitive yung, even the accounts have become quite problematic. Kasi kahit yung mga tinuturo sa mga classroom natin, if you remember, ang daming scandals, no, when it comes to textbooks, for that matter. And so when it comes to what exactly happened before, medyo put into question, not to mention, of course, that many of those people living now and about to vote actually did not experience martial law, no? So second of all, whether we like it or not, but I mean, the popularity of the current president really is incomparable, no, to the popularity of especially the previous administration. I don't know exactly why, but most likely it's also because most of the propaganda that has been used before are no longer applicable, or no longer useful now. No, so you have to shatter, no, that enigma so as to somehow neutralize, no, the dominance of the Marcos narrative.
Well, speaking of the Marcos narrative, just in the last few days, we've had this, you know, the furor over BBM's hand, left hand or right hand, and the wounds, and, you know, ang daming memes lumalabas, no, na diring-diri siya sa masa, kaya ayaw niya magpahawak, and then may issue na, sabi na nga ng pani niya, may sugat siya, so naging issue din yun, na parang, bakit may sugat? Then, you know, people resurrecting those photographs of his father with, you know, all those bandages on his wrists, no? What are we to make of that?
Well, kasama naman yan sa propaganda, Pia. Of course, if you can't find something to really clutch on or to hold on, no, as an issue, or as for lack of a better term, propaganda, you come up with something that somehow you could try, no? If the public will catch on, or will
in other words,
hold on.
kasi sa dami ng
more substantive.
Oo. Well, dahil sa dami ng tinapon na sa kanya, parang nothing sticks, no? So might as well, but anyway, parang trial lang. Okay, one last question. We need to ask this because you have this Isko Moreno, Doc Willie Ong, a little bit of a drama going on, no? So hindi sinama si Doc Willie sa Mindanao dahil nga daw, ang gusto daw sa Mindanao, sa parts sa Mindanao, Isko Sara, no? What does this look and sound like to you, no? Is this like, para ba itong Noibi noong 2010 or noong 2016, di ba? Si Digong, tumakbo ang kanyang running mate, si Alan Cayetano, pero pani ang praise niya kay BBM, no? So what are we to make of this? Pwede yun, Pia. Kasi alam mo, talagang kakaiba ng klase ng politika natin. Hindi ko na nga tinatawag na political system kasi wala naman talagang sistema tayong pinag-uusapan eh. Everything depends on personalities. Kaya nga, nung kanina sabi ko, nag-high nako ako kasi alam mo, parang napaka-exasperating nung mga nakita natin ngayon. Bigla-bigla na lang yung mga political party nandyan or wala. Actually, they're not really that useful, so to speak. And so, to my mind, there's no incentive really, no, for tandems really to stick it out, mainly because the supporters have their own, I don't know, direction or even agenda that they are inclined to support whoever is winning in the numbers or in the survey. So pagka nakikita nila, hindi masyado magaling yung choice nila for president, palitan natin yung tandem ng vice president natin and vice versa. Alright. Nako. Hi, nako. Salamat, Ed Tayaw. Ubus na rin ang oras natin. Hi, nako. Thank you for your insights so much. Political analyst Edmund Tayaw. We've been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or the family reunion or in Viber groups and risk digital warfare. But we can talk about it here at this table on this show, your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Pia Hontiveros. See you back here next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m.